Hello everyone and welcome to The Farmer Was Replaced. First things first, a full disclosure, I did receive a key from the publisher, so a big thank you goes out to them. And yes, I have been keeping an eye on this game for a while and I really like it. Basically, this is a programming game, it is basically, well, an incremental game. Incremental games are, the kind of games where you have to start with something basic and you have to build up certain resources over time, and the more you build up, the better you are at the game. So, we are going to program this drone and we will make sure that we are going to, well, basically automate the operations of a farm. So, you know what? Let's just jump into it and might as well see what we have on offer. So, let's start a new game. Now, this game is using I suppose a simplified or slightly modified version of Python. So you know what? If you are learning or familiar with Python, this game should be right up your alley. But even if you are not, and you just are interested in programming or want to learn programming, I think this is a pretty much perfect way to get started because, well, it's a game, it should be fun, and also it also does a very good job of explaining what is programming all about. So, getting started, if you want to read it, you can pause the video and do so. I am relatively familiar what they will do, so let's just click on the first programming link and let's see what we can do. So, in this game, we have a bunch of these script windows that we can open, and we can write different scripts in them, and well, we can execute them and they will do what we write in them. For now, let's just leave the main window. So at the very start, we can only do two things: harvest and do a flip. Let me just copy the do a flip command or function, and I will copy it in here. The parentheses are very important. Every single function will require a parenthesis because sometimes you can put extra variables in them which will be used inside the script or inside the function, but right now it is empty, but it still has to be there. Anyways, what does do a flip do? Well, it will do a flip. It is self-explanatory. But what does harvest do? Well, I think it's also pretty self-explanatory. It will harvest whatever is under the drone. So let's just do it a couple of times because as it happens, we will need to do this 5 times to unlock our first technology. So this one can be closed now. And this is the unlock window or the tech tree basically. And we can unlock our first unlock, which is going to be the while loop. There are different kinds of loops in the game. For loops, for example, will come later. Right now we are working with the while loop. Basically, while loops are a conditional loop. As long as the condition is satisfied, then it will keep looping over whatever is inside the while loop. And this is where indentations will be super important. So let me just show you. So while true, colon, and the harvest is now indented under the while loop. That means that this harvest will be repeated over and over again because the condition for the while loop is just a true statement. And well, this true statement is always going to be true, so it will repeat over and over. If I say false, then this will never repeat, not even once. So let's just keep it on true. Also, capitalization is also super correct. Uppercase true is what we need. Lowercase true is not going to do anything for us. So anyways, there we go. So if I let this one go now, it will just keep on harvesting exactly what we need. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and I think, yeah, if you want to read up on what this one does a little bit more in depth, you have this window right here. It should explain everything you need to know. Next up, let's see what we can unlock with all this hay. We can unlock some hats, but I believe these are just cosmetic, so I don't think I will bother. Let's go for something a bit more interesting. So we can increase the yield of the hay, so with every harvest we could get 2, but we need 300 hay for that, so we would need to wait a very long time to get to there. So instead, what if we increase the speed of the drone? That is only 20 hay, so let's go for it. Now, there is a problem. Now the drone is so fast that it is harvesting faster than the grass can grow, so we are not actually getting anything from this harvest. So you know what? You stop right now. What we need to do now is set a condition for the harvest. We only want to harvest if the grass is ready for harvest. So we have this if statement now. What we need to do is set an if condition inside the while loop. So it is already right here. So if you want to, you can just copy this. If can harvest. The can harvest is another function. It requires parentheses, obviously. And this function will check if the tile under the drone is ready for harvest. So copy it, paste it into the script. And don't forget, indentations are super important. So right now, this if condition has nothing inside it because the harvest is in the same indentation line as the if statement itself. To make sure that the harvest is inside the if statement, it needs to be indented so it is technically inside the if statement. And now, the drone will only harvest if it can harvest. So let it go, and it does exactly what we need. Once again, if you want to read up on the if statements a bit more deeply, you can do so in this window. So there we go. So we can just let it go, and it will give us a lot of hay over time. But let's see what else we can do. Well, we can expand the size of the farm, because obviously right now we are working on a single tile. Let's make things a bit more interesting. So expand the farm. And there we go. Now the farm is 3 tiles big, and this also unlocked the move function. And it is pretty simple. With the move function, we can move in 4 directions: north, east, south, and west. So this is the first occasion where we actually need to put some kind of a value into the input of one of these functions. So the move function all by itself will not do anything. We need to put a either north, east, south, or west into the input, because that is how it will know what to do. So stop for a second, and if you can harvest, that's fine. But if you cannot harvest, then just continue with the code. Also, don't remove that parentheses. So continue with the code, and then we want to move back 1 indentation, so we are not inside the if can harvest if statement. So if you cannot harvest, then just move north. And there we go. So if you can harvest, and then move north. And that will basically make sure that the drone will loop through the entire farm, because thankfully, if we move north from the most northward tile, it will loop back to the south side. So thankfully, we don't need to go up and then come down and go up again. It will loop through the entire field. We just need to keep moving north. So we can let this one go now. And there we go. Now it is not exactly efficient because we are still moving through this. So let's see what else we can do. We can close this now. Let me see. I suppose we can try to make our drone a bit faster. And for that we need wood. And wood will come from these bushes, at least for now. So you know what? It's only 50 hay, so let's just unlock it. There we go. And this is our first occasion where we can plant something, because right now grass grows automatically on these grass tiles, but if we want to have something else here, we need to actually actively plant it. So you know what, I think I will actually open our first new script file right here, or window. Basically these are separate script files, but they are represented in these windows. So what I will do is copy this whole script from the regular harvest script, and while true is still okay, if you can harvest is still okay. But before we move north, what we want to do is plant, and we want to plant an entity. Also, there's a nice autocomplete in this game, so if you start writing entities, so ENT, then it will come up with a list of possible autocompletes, and entities you can press tab and it will autocomplete, and then dot, and now here we need to actually select what we want to plant, and obviously we want to plant bushes, and we can close the parentheses, and there we go. So basically, if we can harvest, we will harvest whatever is under it, and then we will replace whatever the grass with some bushes, and then we will move north. So you know what, stop this one and start using this code now. And there we go, we have planted bushes. Obviously bushes will take a bit a longer time to grow, but now we are actually harvesting wood. Very nice. Also, this also unlocked a clear function. You know what, I will set that one as a separate window. I will name this one as the clear file, and clear parentheses, and basically this will reset everything right back to the start. Let me just show you, you can stop now, and if I click this one, you know what, just move up a little bit, there we go. So if I click this one, the drone will move back to the start, and all the fields will be set back to grass. So basically it will wipe everything clean, and like that. But anyways, now we need to keep working on the wood. So we have 20 wood now. That means that we can increase the speed, but well, the wood is not really growing all that fast, so speed will not give us any kind of benefit right now. We could expand the farm once again, and you know what? Before we go for carrots, let's expand the farm. Right, now this will turn the farm, well, let me just show you. Instead of making it longer, now the farm is wider. That's a little bit more interesting, right? Well, what we need to do now is use the for loop. For loops are basically similar to the if statement, but here we are setting a range. So we can tell it how many times we want to do whatever is inside the for loop. And well, the size of this word is a 3x3, and this technology also unlocked a new function, get world size. So you know what, let me just quickly stop this one and let's work on this a little bit. So let me see, we might want to first indent everything one time, and we can start writing a for loop right on the top. So for, and basically what we want to do is cycle through the column first. So that is going to be the x-axis. So let's use the x as the variable for this looping. Basically, we have this variable of I in here. For now, we are using x, and this is what will store the number of attempts that we are trying to go through this loop. And the in range, this is the target number. So for example, for x in range, well, since the world is a 3x3, we can just tell it to do this loop 3 times. And that will do exactly what we need, but eventually this farm will be expanded. So tell you what, instead of using 3, we can automate the detection of the size of the word. Also, at the end, we will need a colon. So instead of hard coding the size of the word, what we can do is every time just read how big the word is. So get word size function. And I suppose we can just put it in here, right? So replace that tree with a get word size function. So what this will do now is go through this column 3 times. So let's just reset everything and do it now. And there we go. So technically speaking, it's only doing this 3 times, but well, since we are looping continuously, it actually is very similar to the script we had before. But believe me, we are technically only doing this 3 times, but because of the while true loop, we are continually doing this. So anyways, that only takes care of 1 column, but we also have 2 more columns right next to it. So there is another thing we can do. Well, we want to do this for every column that is inside here, but we want to do the entire thing 3 times going eastwards. So there are 2 ways of doing this. We can either set up another for loop, so let's just indent everything here again, and we can tell them to for in the y-axis, so let's just use y as the next variable, and we can just basically use this again. So there we go. And inside this, it will run through this 3 times. And once it's done with this one, then what we need to do is, well, here, move east. So basically, here we will start a loop, and then we will start a new loop inside the parent loop. And once this loop is finished, so basically once we've gone through 1 column 1 time, then it will go back to the main loop and it will finish by moving east 1 time, and then it will start back again. So it will run through that column 3 times, and then it will move east again, then so on and so forth, and it will loop back to the start. So clear everything and let's see if this works. So go through this column once, then move east, and there we go. It is working exactly as we want. Very good. Well, that is one way of doing this, but there is an easier way. Basically, we don't really need to have this, because let me just, I believe it is Shift Tab. No. Okay, fine. I will do this one by one. There we go. Basically, if you just tell the script that we need to go through the x-axis 3 times, and then once you are done, just move east. It is basically exactly the same thing. So there we go. So anyways, I think, you know what? This is a pretty decent bush planting script. So I will name this window as our wood planter. Sure. Also, yes, I'm using camel case because I am most familiar with JavaScript as a programming language, and that one is usually uses camel case. I believe in Python they are using underscore to separate words, but I am using camel case. So anyways, I think, oh right, by the way, if you want, you can get hints of how to set these kinds of things up. And if you want, you can also get a possible solution. So basically this will give you the same exact kind of nested for loop that I have showed you, but I think this is a bit more easier to understand. So anyways, that one is done. What is next? Let's just take a look at the unlocks, and now with this increased word size, in fact, I will just reset everything so everything is a bit more organized. So with this bigger word size, by the time we get back to the start, the bushes will have grown up. So tell you what, I think speed increase now is something that we might want. So increase the speed of the drone, and by the time we get back to the start, the bushes will be grown up, and this will definitely increase the wood production. So there we go. Next up, I suppose, yeah, we can increase the grass production a little bit. There we go. And well, next up, what we need are carrots. Or yeah, technically speaking, we can unlock operators too. You know what? Before we get to that, we have this wood planter function. I will make a new window. And by the way, we can also attach windows to each other. And now this one is attached to the wood planter and we can move them together. Anyways, this one will be our grass planter script. So let me just copy this whole thing to here. This will be our grass planter. There we go. So instead of planting bushes, we want to plant grass. So let's see if it works. Start, and it will replace all the bushes with grass. Get to the start, and there we go. Okay, technically speaking, we don't need to plant grass, so I don't think this is really necessary. Once we harvest something, it will be replaced with grass, I believe. So let's take a look. Reset. And yeah, this is a bit better. So before it was harvesting, then it replanted grass, but we don't need to because grass grows all by itself. So anyways, now we have two separate scripts, and depending on what we need, we can just, okay, we don't need grass anymore, we can stop this one and start planting bushes. That is super convenient, and I will keep the main window here because obviously we will make use of it in a second. But anyways, what's next? I suppose we can go for the operators because these will unlock very power functionality in the script editor. So yeah, you know what? I will do this right now. And this basically unlocked usual mathematical operations, plus, minus, multiplication, division, stuff like that. Also, it also unlocked Boolean operators, not, and, or, stuff like that. This will come in handy later, especially the modulo, but I will talk about that once we get to it. Next up, we can unlock senses, and tell you what, let's just start planting grass instead, because we need 100 grass to unlock this one. Thankfully, we have increased the yield of grass, so it shouldn't take too long. And there we go. So we can unlock senses. This will allow us to basically read what is happening with the drone. So we can get the position of the drone, we can get how many items we have in stock, get what kind of entity is under the drone, what kind of ground is under the drone. The ground will come into play with the carrots, by the way. And for example, here we can ask what kind of entity is under. Is it a bush? If it is, then do something. And that will be super powerful later on. And we can also get, let me see, I believe we can also get number or number of items. So yeah, these will come in handy in a second. Anyways, next up, variables. These will be important later, but now we actually need carrots. So let's talk about carrots. This one requires only 50 wood, so let's go for it. And here's the thing about carrots. I will open a new script window immediately and attach it here. And I will copy this code because, well, copying code is, well, kind of important for coding. So, carrots. Carrots, they require a new type of soil. Right now, this is basically just a grass tile. But to plant carrots, we need a tilled soil. So this is where senses come into play, and well, as I said, we can sense what kind of ground is under the drone. So tell you what, if we can harvest, that's fine. Then if get ground type, this will tell us what kind of ground is under the drone, and now we need to set a condition, because obviously if get ground type is not a true or false. For an if statement to work, we need a true or a false. So if get ground type, if this is we need I believe a double equal sign, because programming just use double equal signs. So if the ground type under is, I believe, what we need to do is check if the ground under the drone is soil. Right now this is grasslands, we need soil. So instead of an equal sign, we are going to use a exclamation mark equal. This means it's not equal. So basically, if the ground type under the drone is not soil, then what we need to do is till the soil. So till, and there we go. So this will only happen if the ground is not tilled. If it is already tilled, then this will be skipped. And then if it is tilled, then we can move on, and well, we need carrots. So instead of planting bushes, we are going to plant carrot. And I think this will work. Also, this will be our carrot planter. So reset everything and let's see. Exactly. So grassland has been turned into tilled soil, and this only happens once. Exactly. Good. Okay, so the carrot planter is working fine, but the thing about tilled soil is that we can plant bushes on tilled soil. Also, you know what? I think I will move the grass planter on top. So grass planter, then wood planter, and then the carrot planter. There we go. So the thing is that we can plant bushes on tilled soil, but we cannot plant grass on tilled soil. So what we need to do is basically the opposite of what we have done here, and add a if statement for the grass. But if the ground type is actually you know what, not grassland, then till again, because tilling tilled soil will turn it back into grassland. So if I set this one loose, there we go, it will basically turn everything back to grassland. But one more thing about carrots. Carrot seeds actually require wood and hay. So to get one carrot, we need to pay with hay and wood. That is kind of important, but we will get back to it eventually. For now, we have plenty of these resources, so I think, you know what, let's just go for wood for a second. There we go. So what's next? We have 69 carrots. Very nice. So what we can do is... I suppose I can unlock watering, but let's just wait for that a second. Let's unlock variables. Yeah, let's go for it. Variables are basically just storage spaces in the code where you can store values. And then you can update that value in a central place. So basically you can update the variable name, and instead of having to update each and every time in the code, you can just use this variable and it will update and use the updated value everywhere. So it is super convenient. Plus you can give it a name so you can actually see what it is all about. So anyways, this one can close now. That will be used in a second. Next up, functions and import. Yeah, we are working towards the import. So functions, you know what? We have enough wood now. So let's go for the carrot planter script next, because we need carrots for the next thing. And we need 40 carrots exactly, so 6 more. So there we go, 3, and we have 40. There we go. So functions. Well, we have been using functions all this time, these can harvest and get grunt type and till. These are all functions, but now we can write our own. So you know what? Let's just open a new window and let's just copy the grass planter here. And instead of using a while true statement or a while loop, what we are going to do is define a new function. Def, and let's just call it grass planter. Right. And there we go. So now what we can do is basically, you know what? This is now defined in this script, and then we can start a while loop, while true, and then we can call this function now. So let's just call this function grass planter here. So at the start we define all this script, all this function, and then we'll start a while loop, and then we will basically use this function over and over and over again. So you can stop now, and let's start this one. And there we go. It is doing exactly what we need. And well, this will come in handy in a second, because now we can unlock imports. And there we go, import. This is where we can, well, import scripts from other windows into other windows. If you really want to go through all this, be my guest. This is a bit more advanced, but it is super powerful. So we can close this one. Stop, close, delete, yes. And now, instead of using these scripts all by themselves, also you can close too, let's define these as functions. So this is going to be, you know what? Let's just, it's fine, we can name them the same. So this is going to be def our grass planter script, and then, oh right, we need a colon at the end, and then this is going to be our wood planter function, and this is going to be def our carrot planter function. There we go. And now we can use these functions in the main window. Okay, so if you remember, we did unlock variables and senses and stuff like that. Let's make use of them. So right now we don't have enough carrots. So ideally we should be planting carrots, right? Now we can obviously just use the old while loops and just switch between these windows all the time, but that is very much busy work. We can automate all that. So let's go ahead and let's use variables first. So what we need to do is, let's just set everything into the while loop, because that will basically loop through the assignments of these. So what we need to do is maybe have a variable for hay, basically the harvested grass, and we can tell the script to continually update the number of hay that we have at our disposal. So what we need to do is get a num items, and we are interested in the items dot a. So basically every time the script runs, or basically every time we loop through this one, this hay variable will be updated with the current number of hay that we have at our disposal. So let's just do this 2 more times, but obviously, sorry, not there. We want to have a number for wood, and we are interested in the number of wood that we have, and carrots, and we are interested in the number of carrots that we have. And there we go. So now we have 3 variables that will update automatically, and it will contain the number of items that we have. So let's see. Next up, we might want to set up an if statement. So let's say that if we have, oh right, also at the very start, we can import, but I will deal with that in a second. So if we have less hay than the number of wood, and if, although it should be less equal, because sometimes it can be equal, and if we are just using the less than, it doesn't account for that. And if the number of hay that we have is less equal than the number of carrots that we have, carrots, that's correct, then we want to run the grass planter script. Now, if I just simply call this function right now, it will not do anything. So if I do this, this function does not exist in this window. So what we need to do is import this function from this window. So import, and we want to import the contents of the grass planter window. There we go. Now this function exists in this window, but we also need to specify from which window we want to use this function. So I believe we need to have grass planter dot grass planter, because this is the window that we import from, and this is the function that we are using from that window. So theoretically this should work. Now obviously we are running low on carrots, so we are going to go ahead and copy this one a couple of times, and there and there, and this one needs to be for wood, and this one can be hay, and this one can be wood. So this is checking if we have less wood than all the others, and in that case use the wood planter windows wood planter function, and that also means that we need to import the contents of the wood planter window. Okay, and as you might have guessed, the last one will be for carrots. So carrots, if we have less than the number of wood, and carrots if we have the less than the number of hay, then we want to use the carrot planter windows. There we go, carrot planter function. And there we go. So import from the carrot planter window. So theoretically this should work, right? So let's reset. So if all goes well, we should see carrot planting happening if I let this one go. And exactly, very good. And as soon as the number of carrots goes above, well, in this case it's going to be wood, then we will switch over to wood planting. So there we go. We have automated the production of all these guys, and basically we will keep an equal amount of each of these. Super nice. Okay, technically speaking, we can let this one go here, but well, you might have noticed that we have plenty of technologies to unlock, and each of these will be more and more complex as we go along. So you know what? I think before we say goodbye, I want to go into tree planting, because, well, bushes only give us a little bit of wood and we cannot upgrade them. To get a lot of wood, we need trees. So yeah, let's go ahead and unlock. And yeah, we just had enough, barely enough carrots. Now, trees. The thing about trees is that they are very sensitive about their surroundings. So if we plant trees in every single one of these spaces, then they will go super slow. But if we don't plant trees in the immediate for example, if we have a tree here, but we don't have a tree here, 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 or here, then this tree right in the middle will grow as fast as possible. This only applies the 4 tiles to the north, south, east, and west. Diagonally, they are going to be fine. So what we need to do is, well, as you might have guessed already, we need to plant trees in a checkerboard pattern. So let's go ahead and do that. If you want to get a hint about how to do this, you can click on this show and it will tell you. We will not do that right now. Let's just go ahead and I will copy the wood planter script to a new window because we want to work on this for a second. So there we go. So how can we do this? Well, this is where one of these operators will come in. Here we have something called a modulo or modulus, or, well, I never really know which one is which. I believe modulus is the operation, modulo is the result or something, I don't know. Anyways, this percentage sign. This one looks like a, well, you might think of this as a division operation, but instead of giving us the result of the division, it will only give us the remainder of that operation. Also, we have switched over to bush planting, very nice. Anyways, modulo. This one, as I said, will only give us the remainder. So, for example, if we write here 2 modulo 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so the remainder is going to be 0, because basically the result of a division would be a whole number, so there is no remainder. But let's say 3 divided by 2. Now there is 1, 2 inside the 3 and plus 1. That will mean that if we divide 3 by 2, then we get the remainder of 1. So what we can do is we can delete this. I can only hope that I have explained this correctly and understandably. What we need to do is basically check the position of the drone, and depending on if the position, for example, on the x-axis is divisible by 2, then we want to plant a tree there on this column. But if it is not divisible by 2, then we don't want to. And that will make sure that we are only planting trees on every second tile in this column. So you know what? Let's try to implement that. So let's switch this one to replanting and indent it once, and then if get position x modulo 2. Let's take a look. No, that doesn't look correct. There we go. Okay, we did it. Instead of x, we need to go for the y, because we are looking for the position on the y-axis, at least here. Now, we only want to do this in the even number of columns. So this one and this one. So we need to set up a secondary condition. So this one needs to be indented actually. And then if get position x is divisible by 2, then we can do this. So we should only do the even number plantings in the even numbered columns. So let's take a look. Clear, and that's correct. That is not correct. Oh, right. Sorry. This one needs to be an X. So clear, and let's take a look. And exactly. So now we are only planting trees in the corners because this is an odd numbered column. So tell you what, we still want to have a tree right in the middle, right? So clear everything. Copy this whole thing. Put it right here. And basically we need to flip this one. So if the column is an odd numbered column, so if the remainder is 1, then we want to plant in the odd numbered spaces or odd numbered rows. So this one also should be a remainder of 1. So theoretically, now we should have 4 trees in the corners and 1 right in the middle. Let's take a look. Correct. And correct. Very good. So these trees will grow as fast as physically possible. But you know what? We have some grass right here, and in this script we want to maximize the amount of wood that we are generating. So instead of planting wood, stop this one for now. So if these are not correct, then what we need to do is plant entities bush. There we go. So I believe this will plant a bush if the conditions for a tree are not applying. So let's take a look, and that appears to be correct. Yeah, very good. So basically this script is now maximizing the amount of wood that we can get. Okay, that means that we can copy this whole function and replace this. Okay, we can delete this one and we can go back to the main, and this will maximize the amount of wood that we are generating. Okay, yeah, I had to wrap my head around the modulo once again, but well, we got there in the end. And so we can zoom out a little bit. You can go there and you can go up here. So I think this is a somewhat efficient starting script. Let's just go ahead and maybe unlock watering. Watering, as you might have guessed, will make stuff grow faster. And well, if you want to read up on it, it is right here in the window. So you know what, and let's just leave it open. There we go. So now we have a get water function. This will tell us how water the tile under the drone is. It can go from 0 to 1. Basically this is a percentage, and it can go from 0 to 0 0.01, 0 0.02, and so on and so forth. 0 is 0%, 1 is 100%, and anything in between. So let me just take a look. Right. A tank holds 0.25 units of water. So 1 tank of water will water a tile 25%. So you know what? Let's just go ahead and... Right. We can close this now. What I want to do is... yeah, just include it, I think, in each of these functions. It's fine. So let's harvest if you can harvest. And then if... let's just open this again so I can see what we need. Get water. Okay, so if get water, as it said, it will return anything, a value between 0 and 1. So it can be 0.5, 0.52, so on and so forth. So since 1 tank can water a tile 25%, then to maximize our return, then you know what, if the water amount is less or equal than 0.75, so basically if 1 water will not go to waste, Then we just want to water. So use item items dot water. And there we go. So basically, we will only use a tank of water if it is actually fully taken advantage of. If the amount of water is above 75%, then we will not water because then it would go to waste. So let's take a look. We have 16 barrels of water right now. Can I increase the generation a little bit? 200? Yes, we can go up to 0.4 per second. Now, I do believe this has changed since the earlier versions. I was watching some other creators' videos from the early access version, and in that version, they had to basically buy empty barrels for wood, and the amount of empty barrels they had would determine the speed of the filling speed of those empty barrels, basically. But now we have this unlocked. I think it's basically the same thing, because we are basically once again trading wood for barrel fill speeds. So it's basically the same thing, just a little bit less busy work. I think it's a little bit more beginner friendly maybe. So anyways, we have water now. So I will copy this into every single one of these. So after every harvest, I suppose. There and here as well. So if the tile is 75% water, then we will water. If it's above, we will not. So let's take a look. And there we go. This tile is now 22% watered. So now it is 40 something percent watered. And eventually we will reach the point where it is more than 75% watered. It is now 67%. So the next time around, it will go above 75. And after that, it should not be watered. Okay, 87%. And the next time around, it should not be watered, right? And exactly. It was not watered, so that's fine. And yeah, watering will increase the growth speed of these guys. Very good. Okay, so yeah, we have increased the efficiency of our farm once again. Can I increase this one again? We need 800 wood, so not for a while. Now that we have increased the growth speed of all these, I think it's time to increase the size of the farm maybe. So expand. It is fairly cheap, so let's go ahead and do it. So instead of a 3x3, the farm is now a 4x4. And since we have not hard-coded the size of the world in the scripts, we are using the get world size variable. Every single one of these scripts have been updated automatically, and they are working as intended. We are only planting in the even number of fields on the tree planting script and the odd numbered fields, so it is working as intended. Very good. So what else can we do? I think, you know what, we are approaching the 1 hour mark, so I think I might leave it here for now. Also, I mean, we try to use, we can check if we have water, and that will get rid of the error, but you know what, it's fine. If we cannot if we cannot water because we don't have water, then we will just not do so, it's okay. So anyways, I think I will leave it here for now, but before we say goodbye, let me just quickly take a look at some of the other stuff that we might do. For example, we will have fertilizers eventually. It says grow plants instantly, so that can be kind of nice. Then we also have these sunflowers. Right. This is very, very specific. It is a lot more complicated than the other stuff that we have done so far. And pumpkins as well. In fact, I can't on the pumpkins just yet. We are very close, but not quite there. But anyways, for example, pumpkins. Pumpkins, for example, work in a way that we plant a pumpkin through the entire field. And if we have pumpkins in adjacent tiles, so for example a 2x2, then that pumpkin will combine into a bigger pumpkin, and if we harvest it, instead of getting 4 pumpkins, we will get 8. And then if we have a 3x3 pumpkin, then that pumpkin will give us a, I believe instead of 9, it will give us 27 or something. So basically the bigger pumpkin we can make, the better. But the problem is that pumpkins will, I believe they will die 1 out of 5 every time. And that is, well, not very good. So basically what we will need to do is plant pumpkins in each of these fields 1 time. And then instead of going back to the start and harvesting immediately, what we will need to do is go through the entire field and check if a pumpkin is dead, then replant. And then check again. And once every single tiles come back as a full pumpkin, which basically means that we have a farm field that is basically a one big pumpkin, then we can harvest. So we will need to basically run a scanning script and only harvest if it comes back with all live pumpkins, and well, that is kind of a complication that I really don't want to go into, especially now that we have reached the 1 hour mark. So yeah, I think I will leave the rest up to you. We have a lot more stuff to unlock, and as I said, I will leave it up to you. I can only hope that I have made this understandable and interesting enough for you to get it, because this is a very good way of learning the basics of coding and maybe a bit of Python coding as well. So anyways, I think all that is left to say is that thank you for watching. If you liked the video, you can leave a like, leave a comment, and maybe subscribe to the channel if you want. If you would like to support me a little bit more, you can do so by clicking the join button and becoming a channel member, which will give you an early and ad-free access to these videos. Once again, thank you for watching, and thank you very much for your support. I will see you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye.